Good morning and welcome to Northwest, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Oops. Good morning. Yes. I'm Tom Ott. My pronouns are he and him, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service. And today we welcome the Reverend Cassandra Hartley to our pulpit. Reverend Cassandra graduated with her Master's of Divinity from Detroit Ecumenical Theological Seminary and was ordained into the Unitarian Universalist ministry in 2016. She also has an undergraduate degree in journalism and worked in nonprofit communications for many years before entering the ministry. Reverend Cassandra served the First UU congregation of Ann Arbor for 6 years, first as the minister for RE, then as executive minister. She is now a community minister and is getting her MSW at the University of Michigan to become a licensed therapist. She and her 3 children and many pets live on a small farm in Manchester, Michigan. And I also am happy to add to welcome today to our sound booth, Michael Bowie, this is his first Sunday as our new audiovisual technician. Yes. Okay. If you're a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form appearing in the chat box. And if you're with us in person, you can fill out the visitor sign-in form in the atrium. So here's where we now greet your neighbors with a wave from wherever you are.
The prelude I've chosen today is the Moroccan national anthem in recognition of the devastating tragedy they have just suffered.
We begin our worship services with a land acknowledgement. We honor and pay our respects to the land on which we live and work, which was violently stolen through colonialism, genocide, and forced removal of its traditional stewards. These stewards are the Anishinaabeg, the Confederate Council of the Three Fires, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, also known as Ottawa, Chippewa, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, also known as Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. We also acknowledge the people of African descent who were forcibly removed from their land and separated from their families through kidnapping and enslavement, and pay reverence and respect to them for building this country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date. We light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations across this land and around the world are doing the same. We do so with words from the Reverend Karen LeBlanc. This isn't just a place of worship. This isn't just a fellowship of like minds. This isn't just a Sunday morning filled with spirit and topped off with coffee and cookies. This is our church, our congregation, where we are building beloved community, where we are opening ourselves to each other, where we trust and love, rise and fall together. This is where we feel safe. This is where we know we are welcomed. This is where we belong. For this gift, and so many others, we light our chalice.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Our first reading is Who You Are Enriches Us All by Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson. Welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger, and to the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard. Welcome to them as well. For we are people of faith, faith in our expansive welcome, faith in our ability to grow, faith in the precious gift of our truths, faith in the promise of trying, learning, changing, faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. Welcome to you who are gay, straight, bi, pan, lesbian, queer, questioning, unable to be contained in any word. Welcome to you who are trans, cis, genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, agender, beyond words. Welcome to you who are human. Welcome to you who love and are loved. Welcome to you who are blessed, which is all of you. May this time together be a blessing. Our first hymn is number 95 in Singing Living Tradition. There is some more somewhere. You're invited to rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love.
It is such a joy and honor to be with you all today. And today we're going to explore the idea of belonging, how we find belonging. And sometimes I find that children's stories explain things in ways that we can't always put into words ourselves as adults. So I want to share a story for those children watching at home and for those who are young at heart here. It's called The Adventures of Beagle, the Unimaginary Friend by Dan Santat. He was born on an island far away where imaginary friends were created. Here they lived and played, each eagerly waiting to be imagined by a real child. Every night he stood under the stars, hoping for his turn to be picked by a child and given a special name. He waited for many nights, but his turn never came. His mind filled with thoughts of all the amazing things that were keeping his friend from imagining him. So rather than waiting, he did the unimaginable. He sailed through unknown waters and faced many scary things. But thinking about his friend gave him the courage to journey on until he reached the new world. The real world was a strange place. No kids were eating cake. No one stopped to hear the music, and everyone needed a nap. Then he finally saw something familiar, so he followed. He had a good feeling about this place, but he looked everywhere, and he could not find his friend. He climbed to the top of a tree and looked out, wishing and hoping his friend would come. But no one came. He thought about how far he'd come and how long he'd waited and felt very sad. Then he heard a noise below. "Hello!" Her face was friendly and familiar, and there was just something about her that felt just right. At first, they weren't sure what to do. Neither of them had made a friend before. But after a little while, they realized they were perfect together. "I'm Beagle. Hi, Beagle." Beagle and Alice had many new adventures. They shared their snacks. They told funny jokes. The world began to feel a little less strange. And together, they did the unimaginable. The end.
One purpose of a religious community is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering which will mutually support the self-supporting congregation and the shared plate recipient. Every other month throughout the year, Northwest shares 50% of the plate collections with the Southfield Emergency Needs Fund. Their goal is to help residents overcome personal hurdles to achieve a satisfying and productive quality of life. Human Services is a division of Southfield Community Relations. You can do so in a variety of ways that are now visible, or soon, now visible on your screen. And for those of us here in person, we will pass the collection basket for checks and cash. Anyone else? Okay, so let's pause a moment to honor these joys and sorrows and the unspoken ones that we all carry in our hearts. Okay, our next hymn is number 360 in Singing the Living Tradition. Here we have gathered. You are invited to rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able. Our next reading is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue sky, in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Okay. Our next hint, nope, sorry.
So shortly before the COVID-19 shutdown, I had the honor of officiating at a memorial for a beloved community member in Ann Arbor. It was a beautiful service, carefully crafted by her devoted husband and involving many people. Of course, none of us knew at the time just how lucky we were to be able to gather in a large group to say goodbye to a loved one. When it was over, I felt the way I feel after every memorial, deeply honored to be part of such a sacred experience, reminded of how precious life is, and in awe of the mystery of life and death. I was also really tired. It was getting late, and the introverted side of me needed a break. So I snuck away from the crowd and went back to the kitchen to introduce myself to the caterers and grab a bite to eat. This memorial was catered by a family-run Middle Eastern restaurant, so I was able to sit and talk with some of the family members. A woman, her sister, and the woman's 2 young daughters, who seemed to be about 6 and 8 years old. I quickly noticed that the girls were playing with dolls that I recognized from my own daughter, so I asked them which ones they had in the collection. The girls' large, dark eyes widened, and they gasped, amazed that I knew about these particular dolls. Pretty soon, they were telling me their whole life story in rapid fire, talking over each other in a tumble of words, the way siblings often do. The woman looked at me apologetically and tried to coax them away, but I assured her that I was loving it. With that assurance and their mother's permission, they pulled me around the building to show me the various wonders they had discovered. We played games and talked and laughed for quite a while, but then it became clear that people were leaving and the reception was coming to an end. The oldest and most talkative girl, sensing an imminent goodbye, grabbed my hand and said urgently, "Can I tell you a secret?" I said, "Sure," and I bent down to her level. She leaned in, locked eyes with me, and whispered, "I don't have any friends at school." It's a cliche to say that it broke my heart, but sometimes that's the only way to describe that kind of pain. I looked at her and said, "That is so hard." She nodded solemnly, but before I could say anything else, her mother came to collect them. In the way children do best, she instantly went from being solemn back to bubbling with excitement, and she told her mom about our adventures. We all said our goodbyes, and the girls asked if they could come visit again. "We love this place," they said breathlessly. "Of course," I answered. "We loved having you here. You will always have friends here." They smiled, and then they were gone. Later, I tried to describe my night to a friend, but I could tell by her reaction that I was failing to convey the power of it all. I couldn't adequately explain the feeling of connection that memorials always bring, or the feeling of recognition that I had in that brief moment with the little girl. I was once a little girl too, a girl who spent 2 years crying at the prospect of going to school because I couldn't find friends and I was being bullied by a classmate. I knew from that experience and many other life experiences what it felt like not to belong. It became a theme in my life. Then I entered into the ministry, and I was given the gift of being invited into the stories of people's lives. What I quickly discovered is that struggling with belonging is almost universal. Many of us have experienced times of loneliness, even among people we thought we belonged to. Many of us have had people or communities we felt connected to change completely or disappear, leaving us feeling unmoored. Many of us have spent our whole lives searching, but not quite finding the belonging we're so hungry for. But why? The reasons are too complex and numerous to list them all, of course. But I think it begins with the fact that we live in a very individualistic culture, a culture that champions independence, autonomy, self-love, self-care, self-determination. And don't get me wrong, those things are very important. But we also need other people. We are inherently social animals, and the research around how our connections to other people have helped our species survive grows all the time. For example, scientists have discovered that one of the core pieces of early human success was the ability of parents to share childcare duties with other adults, along with countless other cooperative behaviors. Attachment theory has also shown us that when a child is able to foster a close, secure attachment to at least one parent figure, they're better able to think creatively, feel empowered, and explore the wider world. It's called the dependency paradox. The more that we're able to depend on a few key people in our lives, the more independent we can be. And it doesn't stop in childhood. Adult attachment research has shown that our need to depend on others shifts from our caregivers to other key relationships like romantic relationships, friendships, and communities. Unfortunately, our individualistic culture has combined with many obstacles to make it harder and harder to find the relationships that we can depend on. For example, our modern lives, which are often distant from the cycles and rhythms of nature, can sometimes take us away from our basic sense of belonging with the web of life itself. It also used to be common to live embedded in extended family networks and tight-knit communities, but now many people's friends and families are scattered across the country or even the world as we go where our jobs take us. Some neighborhoods are still close, thankfully, but it's also common for people to not even know the names of some of their neighbors. We are lucky to have strong, multi-generational communities in many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations, like this one. But in general, religious communities are dying out as beliefs shift and people's time keeps getting stretched. Social media connects us in many important ways, but research is showing us that it can also foster increased loneliness, anxiety, and depression, depending on how we use it, especially among young people. The recent shutdown due to COVID, of course, left many people struggling with loneliness and isolation. But over and over again, I've heard people say that it merely exacerbated the lack of connection they were already feeling beforehand. It feels daunting, and sadly, there's no magic wand that will fix it all. But we can begin to find some healing if we can foster more vulnerability. The ability to be open and honest with each other about how we are really feeling, and listen with compassion to what others are experiencing. As the writer Tokopah Turner points out in her book, Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home, our modern culture is suffering from an epidemic of alienation, yet so many of us feel alone in our unbelonging, as if everyone else was inside of the thing that we alone are outside of. And keeping silent about our experience of estrangement is, in large part, what allows it to perpetuate. That's why my encounter with the little girl was so powerful for me. In theory, we solved nothing. There was nothing I could say or do to give her friends or the sense of belonging that she was looking for. But for just that one moment in time, we belonged to each other in our common understanding of that pain. The Buddhist teacher and writer Pema Chodron puts it this way: curiously enough, if we primarily try to shield ourselves from discomfort, we suffer. Yet when we don't close off and we let our hearts break, we discover our kinship with all beings. One strange and delightful example of this truth actually comes from a pop song called Dancing on My Own by the singer known as Robin. NPR did a wonderful story on the song several years ago. I highly recommend looking it up if you haven't heard it. And in this story, it talks about how the song brings people together. I don't want to violate copyright law by playing it, but I can say that the music is sweet and fun with a beat that makes it almost impossible not to dance. However, the simple words are laced with a kind of pain that doesn't seem to match the bubbly music. It's a story of a young woman who discovers that her ex has already moved on with someone new. She finds out they're going to be at a dance club, so she goes to see them, even though she knows it's a bad idea. In the chorus, she belts out, "I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her, and I'm right over here, why can't you see me? And I'm giving it my all, but I'm not the girl you're taking home. I keep dancing on my own." It's cathartic, it's silly, it's painful, it's so many feelings at once, but above all, it's vulnerable. Which is why this song about being alone brings people together and makes them feel less alone. The NPR story gives many examples of how this song has become so significant to people that it's been played at both weddings and funerals. They talk about how whenever it's played at clubs or concerts, The whole room will burst out singing together, even though it was never a hit on the radio. There's even a viral video of it on YouTube of a huge crowd of Robin concert goers waiting on a New York City subway platform, and someone starts singing it and the whole crowd bursts out spontaneously singing and dancing together. Many of us long for the healing that those kinds of moments of belonging bring. As Tokopa Turner points out, even the word belonging itself contains the phrase, to be longing. But of course, opening our hearts to our own vulnerability and the vulnerability of others is no easy task, especially right now when we are all so worn down by 3 especially challenging years. It's easy to let anxiety and pain come out sideways in the form of complaints, conflict, pettiness, addiction, giving up, or trying to become more controlling. I know I've struggled with these coping mechanisms on top of just general compassion fatigue. But then I remember an incident that happened back in early 2021, at a time when vaccines were still new and case numbers were through the roof. I was in a store and a man walked in with his young sons, ranging in age from 5 years old roughly to teenagers. None of them were wearing masks, even though it was a mandate at the time, and none of them were following safety protocols, even though it was a very small space. I tried to keep my own children far away from them as I seethed with anger that he was putting everyone in the store, including his own children, at risk. I had noticed out of the corner of my eye that the littlest boy kept glancing over at us, but I was too caught up in my own righteousness to really register him. Then I had to walk past the family to grab something, and as I turned to walk back, I finally really looked at the little boy. He was staring up at me with these giant, beseeching eyes and an earnest smile. I didn't know his story, but I recognized the face of someone who desperately wants to be seen and loved. My anger disappeared instantly, and I found myself smiling as hard as I could, with my eyes, of course, since my mask covered my face. I tried to pour out all of my love as I walked by, and I watched his face relax in relief. Those few sacred moments once again reminded me that on some level, we are all that child, a child with shining eyes who just wants to be seen, who just wants to belong. For some of us, that childlike vulnerability lives just below the surface, easily accessible. And for others, it's buried beneath many, many layers of pain. But when we have the courage to let it show, or to give others space to show their vulnerability, we are instantly returned to our greater belonging. This is especially true in our congregational communities, where we are committed to fostering a sense of belonging to one another and to the web of life. In our congregations, we can take time to engage in practices, both big and small, that make all the difference. Practices like showing up again and again in person or online, and offering our presence each week to each other, sharing openly about how we're really doing, and listening carefully when others share about their lives, offering one another a card or a ride or a meal during hard times, even just smiling warmly at one another as we pass in the halls. We won't do these kinds of things perfectly or always, but each moment that we're together is another chance to try again, to cultivate more belonging and to find more belonging. May we keep trying. May we keep healing. May we keep dancing on our own together. May it be so, and blessed be. Now it is time for the hymn. If you could please rise in body or in spirit and turn to hymn number 396, I believe. I know this rose will open.
This one is a round, and it has 4 parts, so I'm going to divide the congregation in half from where I'm sitting back, and then middle-wise. So front left is 1, 2, 3, then 4 closest to me, going clockwise around. This is the first group. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to sing it all the way through once together, and then we'll sing it through twice as the round. I'll come in for each of the parts with you, don't worry. I know this road will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this road will open. Get ready. I know this road. I know this. I know this road. I know this road will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this road will open. I know this road will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this road will open. Good job, guys.
That belonging right there. We all work together to make it work. As we go forth now into the coming week, let us have the courage we need to open our hearts, even if just a little bit more than we could before. Let us find healing and rest in the places where we feel belonging. And may we be a place of belonging for so many who need it. May it be so, and blessed be.
Okay, we have several announcements to share with you, and more information about our events in the congregation are posted in the weekly newsletter and on our website, northwestuu.org. First of all, the coffee hour and potluck. You're invited to join us for our monthly potluck, along with tea and coffee, after the service in the multipurpose room. Second, there's a town hall meeting. The Committee on Ministry and Right Relationships will be sponsoring a town hall after the potluck here in the sanctuary. We hope to start at about 12:30 p.m. when folks are done eating at the potluck. We anticipate this town hall will be the first, and we expect to have a number of check-ins with the congregation throughout the church here to process what our congregation has lost over the past 3 years, what we have accomplished, and how we can best move forward. There will be plenty of time allocated for comments, questions, and discussion. Third is the Northwest UU Pagan Group. An organizational meeting is being held for those interested in forming a pagan group at Northwest UU. The first meeting will be on Wednesday, September 14th at 7 p.m. Contact Alex Rowan for further information. He's over there. Oh, it's Thursday? Okay, okay, Thursday. Is that still September 4th? That's September. The date is correct. It says Wednesday. Okay, no, sorry. Okay, so Thursday. Next, a dialogue on race and ethnicity, or the ADORE program. This is a monthly gathering to have a dialogue on race and ethnicity on the third Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The next session will be on Wednesday, September 20th. They will explore the implications of the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline for Indigenous communities and the impact on all of us. For those who have participated in previous sessions, join us again and invite another Northwest UU member or friend. Join us and bring a friend. Yeah. Facilitated by Vanessa Washington and Mary Mueller. Next, the Unitarian Universalists of Metro Detroit Belle Isle Picnic. First UU Detroit is inviting all metro area UU churches to a picnic on Belle Isle on Saturday, September 23rd from 12 noon to 5 p.m. First UU will provide main courses, but please bring a drink, dessert, salad, or side dish if you can. They hope to play games, make friends, and conspire to help each other make the world a better place. They hope to see you there. And finally, Northwest's biggest and best fundraiser, the service auction, is Saturday, November 11th from 4 to 8 p.m. here at the church. It's live. Mark your calendars now for the evening of November 11th. See Service Auction Committee members to learn more and for ideas on how you can help. Beata Lemparski, Ariana Abel, Jan Berger-Cohn, Margaret Block, Joanne Cantoni, Tracy Gadaris, Lynn Hitchcock, Susie Kinnan, Linda Morris, Jan Price, Martha Spear, Sharon Sutliff, or Sally Young.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us wise, to all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on. Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. Blend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Loyal guides in love and duty. Loyal guides. Lead us with a trusted light. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly pride. By their work we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on.
We have shed a radiant hour.
We have shared
When the truth has made us free and true.
and the Spirit's gracious power.